The world, for 10-year-old Izuku Midoriya, had shrunk to the size of his bedroom. It was a brightly colored shrine to a dream that felt increasingly like a cruel joke. All Might posters beamed down at him, their smiles promising a future he couldn't grasp. The diagnosis of quirkless had been a hammer blow, and the subsequent years of ridicule, culminating in his childhood friend Kaken's explosive dismissal, had ground him into a fine powder of anxiety and self-doubt. His only refuge was the internet. Specifically the Hero Hub forums, a sprawling digital metropolis where fans, analysts, and aspiring heroes converged. Here, under the anonymous handle QuirkNotes13, Izuku wasn't the quirkless, stuttering Deku. He was a respected, if slightly obsessive, analyst. His breakdowns of hero fights, his intricate theories on quirk applications, and his detailed equipment analyses earned him a small but dedicated following. It was on a thread debating the manliness of the hero Crimson Riot that he first encountered Acid Queen_Pinky. Acid Queen_Pinky, OMG Crimson Riot is the best. He just runs in and punches the problem. So straightforward. So manly. No messing around with fancy tricks. The post was pure, unadulterated enthusiasm, dripping with emojis and chaotic energy. Other, more cynical users were quick to pick it apart, calling Crimson Riot a one-trick pony, but Izuku saw the truth in her passion. He felt a kinship with her unfiltered love for heroes. He typed out a reply, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a confidence he never felt in person. QuirkNotes13 at Acid Queen_Pinky. You're absolutely right about his directness being a key strength. It's a form of psychological warfare. Villains who rely on complex plans are often thrown off by his sheer, head-on approach. But it's not just simple punching. Have you ever noticed the way he braces his left foot before a red gauntlet smash? He's redirecting the entire kinetic force of his charge through his lower body, turning a simple punch into a devastating concussive blow. It's genius, not simple, he expected to be ignored. Instead, within minutes he got a private message. Acid Queen_Pinky, WHOA. Deku-kun. Can I call you that? Your name is hard to type lol, that was so cool. I never thought about his feet. You see everything. You must have an amazing analysis quirk. Izuku's heart hammered against his ribs. Deku-kun. The name Kaken used as an insult, an epithet for useless. But from her, typed out with bubbly sincerity, it felt different. Friendly even. And the assumption he had a quirk, a familiar, painful pang. He decided to just ignore that part. QuirkNotes13, you can call me that. And thank you? I just like to watch heroes closely. That was the beginning. Their private messages became a daily ritual. Izuku learned that Mina-chan, as she insisted he call her, lived in Shiba, had a quirk that let her create acid, and loved to dance. She dreamed of being a hero who made people smile and feel safe, one with flashy moves and a killer costume. Mina, in turn, learned about Izuku's encyclopedic knowledge. He was her personal heropedia. She'd asked him about underground heroes he admired, Eraserhead, for his quirk-neutralizing efficiency, and he'd ask her about the physical sensation of using a quirk. Acid Queen_Pinky, it's like fizzing. You know when you shake up a soda bottle? It's like that feeling, but in my hands and feet. I have to let it out, or I feel all jittery. Sometimes I make little acid slides just to get around my house. My mom hates it. Hee. Izuku would read her messages and try to imagine it. The fizzing. The effortless expression of an inner power. He never corrected her assumption about his own quirk. He was terrified that the moment she learned he was quirkless, this bright, wonderful friendship would evaporate. QuirkNotes13 could be a hero analyst. Izuku Midoriya was just Izuku. 4 years later, the sludge villain incident happened. The confrontation with All Might on the rooftop happened. The dream was officially, irrevocably dead. Izuku trudged home, the hero's words be more realistic echoing in the hollow chambers of his heart. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Mina. Acid Queen_Pinky, Deku-kun. You will not believe this. There's a huge hero festival in your prefecture next month. A bunch of top 100 heroes are doing a joint public training exercise. I'm totally begging my parents to let me go. We could finally meet. Izuku stared at the screen, a fresh wave of despair washing over him. Meet? In person? She would see him. The skinny, anxious boy with no powers, no confidence, nothing to offer but second-hand observations. She would see that the brilliant QuirkNotes13 was a fraud. He wanted to say no. He wanted to make an excuse. But then he remembered her boundless enthusiasm, her unwavering belief in him. For 4 years she had been a constant source of light in his gloomy world. He couldn't just extinguish that. With trembling fingers he typed back. QuirkNotes13. That sounds amazing, Mina-chan. I'll be there. The day of the festival was a sensory overload. The roar of the crowd, the vibrant colors of hero costumes flashing on giant screens, the smell of takoyaki and cotton candy. Izuku clutched the strap of his yellow backpack, his hero analysis for the future, volume 13 safely inside. He felt small and invisible. He scanned the crowd for a flash of pink, his stomach churning. Deku-kun. The voice cut through the noise like a joyful shriek. He turned, and there she was. Unmistakable. Pink skin, yellow horns, and eyes with black sclera that were currently wide with excitement. She was even more vibrant in person, practically vibrating with energy. She wore a cute alien-themed t-shirt and acid-washed jeans. Before he could even process it, she had bounded over and thrown her arms around him in a tight hug. You're real. You're really real. She squealed, pulling back and looking him up and down. You're a little shorter than I pictured, but you have the exact same determined look in your eyes as when you analyze stuff. It's so cool. Izuku's brain short-circuited. He could only manage a strangled, Mina-chan. Show me. Show me the notebook. She demanded, bouncing on the balls of her feet. Hesitantly, he pulled it out. Her eyes went wide as she flipped through the pages, seeing the detailed anatomical drawings, the trajectory lines, the frantic but precise notes. Whoa, this is even more incredible in person, she breathed, her reverence genuine. You really are a genius. They spent the next hour walking through the festival, Mina's excited chatter a constant stream that slowly eroded Izuku's walls of anxiety. She'd point at a hero, and he'd instinctively launch into an analysis, his stutter disappearing as he lost himself in his passion. She didn't just listen, she engaged, asking questions, offering her own perspective on their fighting style and stage presence. It was during a lull, as they watched the sea of people, that the dreaded topic arose. So, Mina said, nudging him with her elbow. I showed you my quirk when I made that little acid smiley on the ground. When do I get to see yours? You're so good at analysis. It must be something like super perception, right? Or maybe a low-level precognition? Izuku's blood ran cold. This was it. The moment of truth. His throat felt tight, and the words caught like burrs. He looked down at his red shoes, unable to meet her bright, curious eyes. Mina-chan. I have to tell you something, he mumbled. The reason I'm so good at analysis is because it's all I have. I'm quirkless. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable pity, the awkward silence, the polite distancing. He waited. And waited, a beat of silence. Then a light laugh. He risked a glance up. Mina was looking at him, a wide, incredulous grin on her face. Wait, for real? You're quirkless? She asked, her tone not mocking, but genuinely amazed. Izuku flinched, nodding miserably. Yes, and you figured all of that. She gestured vaguely at his head and his backpack. Out just by watching? Without any quirk to help you. She leaned in closer, her eyes sparkling. Deku-kun, that's not a disadvantage. That's a superpower. Seriously. Your brain is your quirk. It's like you're a super genius. That's way cooler than just having, like, slightly bigger fists or something. Izuku stared at her, utterly bewildered. He had run this scenario through his head 1,000 times, and not once had it ended like this. Not with acceptance, but with admiration, as if his greatest shame was actually his greatest strength. A tear escaped his eye, tracing a path down his cheek. Then another. Mina's smile softened. Hey, don't cry, she said, her voice gentle. She awkwardly patted his shoulder. I mean it. You're amazing. Quirk or no quirk, you're the smartest person I know. And you're totally gonna be a hero. And in that moment, something shifted inside Izuku. All Might, the symbol of peace, his lifelong idol, had told him to be realistic. But Mina Ashido, his bubbly, pink-skinned friend from the internet, looked him in the eye and told him he was amazing. For the first time in a long time, he started to believe it might be true. That night, a different Izuku Midoriya ran to stop the sludge villain from killing Katsuki Bakugo. He ran not out of blind, desperate instinct, but with a flicker of something new, a tiny ember of self-worth that Mina had kindled. He ran because a hero's job is to save people, and his friend had just reminded him that he could be one. When All Might revealed his secret and offered him one for all, Izuku's yes was still tearful, still choked with disbelief, but it was stronger. It was reinforced by the knowledge that at least one person in the world already believed in him, even before this miracle. The first person he told, after his mother, was Mina. He called her, his voice trembling as he explained the impossible story of an inherited quirk, of a dying ember being passed to him. He left out All Might's name, of course, but he told her everything else. Mina's reaction was an explosion of pure joy through the phone speaker. I knew it. I told you your passion would be rewarded. Oh my gosh, Deku-kun, this is amazing. We're both going to get into UA and be the coolest hero duo ever. She became his secret, long-distance training partner. All Might's American dream plan was grueling, focusing on strength and stamina. Mina added a new dimension. You can't just be strong, Deku-kun, she'd say over their video calls. You gotta be groovy. A hero needs to have rhythm. She sent him dance tutorials and flexibility routines. Izuku, blushing furiously in the privacy of his room, would try to mimic her fluid movements. He'd stumble and trip, but slowly, he started to develop a sense of balance and body awareness he'd never had. All Might was building the engine. Mina was teaching him how to steer. The UA entrance exam arrived. As he stood before the colossal gates, he wasn't alone in the crowd. A pink hand grabbed his. Ready to rock this, partner? Mina grinned, her horns seeming to glint in the morning sun. Ready, Izuku said, and for the first time, he sounded it. During the exam, he saw her in action for the first time up close. She was a whirlwind of motion, skating on trails of acid, melting robots with precise, sizzling shots. He felt a swell of pride. That was his friend. When the zero-pointer appeared and he saw Ochako Uraraka trapped, he didn't hesitate. But as he leaped, as one for all coursed through his limbs, a new voice joined the chorus in his head. Alongside All Might's "You can become a hero," was Mina's cheerful shout. You got this, Deku-kun. He smashed the robot, shattered his bones, and began to fall. The memory of Mina teaching him to find his center of gravity, to be aware of his body in space, gave him just enough presence of mind to try and flail into a safer position, before Uraraka slapped him, saving him from a fatal impact. After the exam, Mina found him being stretchered away by Recovery Girl. That, she said, a mixture of terror and awe on her face, was the most insane, reckless, and heroic thing I have ever seen. You were like be-whoosh and then smosh. Her energetic sound effects and wild gestures made him smile through the pain. Having her there, her familiar energy grounding him, made the agony a little more bearable. The first day at UA High was different. When Izuku opened the door to Class 1A, he wasn't just a nervous boy scanning a room of intimidating strangers. His eyes immediately found Mina, who was already deep in conversation with a red-haired boy with pointy teeth and a blonde with a black lightning bolt in his hair. Her face lit up. Deku-kun, you made it. Over here. The entire class turned to look. Izuku felt a blush creep up his neck, but this time it was mixed with warmth. He walked over to her, and she immediately started introducing him. Everyone, this is my friend, Deku-kun. He's a total genius when it comes to quirks, you'll see. Before he could properly meet Eijiro Kirishima and Denki Kaminari, a familiar, gravelly voice barked from behind him. DKU? Izuku flinched. Bakugo was staring at him, his red eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and rage. What the hell are you doing here? And since when do you know Rakunize? Mina stepped partly in front of Izuku, her hands on her hips. Her cheerful demeanor vanished, replaced by a fierce loyalty. His name is Deku and Blasty, she said, her voice sharp. Bakugo's eye twitched at the nickname. And we've been friends for years. Got a problem with that? Bakugo was momentarily stunned into silence. The useless, quirkless Deku he had tormented for a decade hadn't just inexplicably gotten into UA. He had a friend. A confident, outspoken friend who wasn't afraid of him. It was a variable his explosive worldview couldn't compute. He just scoffed and turned away, slumping into his seat. Izuku looked at Mina, his heart swelling with a gratitude so immense it felt like another quirk. For his entire life, he had been the one to stand behind Bakugo. Now, for the first time, someone was standing in front of him. As Shoto Aizawa shuffled into the room and announced the quirk assessment test, Izuku's usual panic was tempered by a quiet confidence. He looked across the changing room, and then out onto the field. He saw Uraraka and Ida, the two kind people he'd met at the exam. And he saw Mina, who caught his eye and gave him a conspiratorial wink and 2 thumbs up. He was still nervous. The challenge of One for All was immense. The pressure to live up to All Might's legacy was crushing. But looking at his friend, he felt a profound sense of certainty. The path ahead would be fraught with peril, pain, and impossible odds. But this time, he wouldn't be walking it alone. He had a partner. And she was pretty groovy.